Welcome to You Are Not a Goat. If you want to follow your passion and do what you love, this is the podcast for you. Without further ado, here's your host, Shlomi Zayats.
Hello and welcome back to You Are Not a Goat. My name is Shlomi Zayats and I am your host. Thank you for listening. We have an awesome show for you today. Before we get into that, I just wanted to let you know that tomorrow, God willing, I will be uploading a new YouTube video on my channel, Shlomi Zayats. There's a link in the show notes. It's going to be a YouTube channel about travel. There's already one video up there, but I'm going to try to do it more often. So we're looking into having videos every week. Check it out. Tomorrow it's going to be launching, so please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, there's a link in the show description. And never miss a video. In other news, last week I mentioned that I was going to start reading reviews, feedback, etc. on the show. So for this week, we have a review that came in on the podcast app, the iTunes podcast app, the Apple podcast app, I should say. And by the way, if you have not yet left a review on the podcast app, please do so. Please subscribe as well. It helps the show grow. Leave us a nice review. I will always appreciate it. And I may just read it on the show. So, this review comes from Plain Vanilla, who says, I bumped into the podcast by accident, but once I started, I binge listened to all episodes. Great topics, great guests, and intriguing topics. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you, Plain Vanilla. Thank you for leaving that review, whoever you are. Please contact me. Send me a direct message on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or you can email me, youarenotagoat@gmail.com, and I will send you a gift card. And to anyone else who would like to leave a review, if I do end up reading your review on the show, you will get a gift card as well. So yeah, let's make it happen. Now, let's get into this episode. This week, we talked to somebody who is quite famous in the foodie world. It's going to be a juicy interview, and when I say juicy, I say that for a reason, because we are going to be talking to Izzy Eidelman, the founder, CEO, master chef, pit boss, whatever you want to call him, of Izzy's BBQ in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Izzy has become, in a very short time, he's become a world-renowned barbecue master. People come from all over to try his food, and it's really interesting to me how somebody who presumably started off not knowing anything about barbecue becomes the top person in the field. If you have not yet eaten by Izzy's restaurant, it's in Crown Heights. You totally should stop by. The food is amazing. I've been there numerous times. Took my wife. I've taken friends. Everyone loves it. I'm not going to tell you more about it. You just should try it for yourself. But lucky for you guys, you can hear all about it from the founder himself. So without further ado, here is the king of kosher barbecue, Izzy Eidelman. Today we have a real treat. The man, the legend, Izzy Eidelman, founder and, what do we call you, chef?
Just Izzy is cool.
Just Izzy. Okay. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. So my first question is, can you give me a little bit of background about yourself, who you are, where you're from, etc.?
I'm actually, born and raised in Brooklyn. Both of my parents are Israeli. I grew up in Borough Park for most of my life, then switched over to Crown Heights. My parents are Chabad. We always had a relationship. My mother's Chabad, so we always went to Crown Heights growing up as kids a lot. And I started going to school in 7th grade, to a Chabad school. Started going to school, went to the system, went to yeshiva, went to Israel, went to London, did smicha after, got back. Didn't really have any, formal school education. Wasn't really, for me, sitting down in a class was a little hard for me.
Welcome to the club.
So I sort of went into the working world. I went into work for a building supplies company, and over the years, I pretty much within a 7-year span, I worked for, companies that dealt with management companies, supplied building supplies. But pretty much I definitely felt a void, and I definitely felt like I wasn't living to my capacity. But I guess everything happens for a reason, because at some point, I would say about 6 years ago almost, someone by the name of Ari White, who's also back at the time was known as Hakadosh Barbecue, also is known now as the Wandering Q. Actually, we saw an ad that he's going to do a street fair, going to bring his big smoker, in Park Slope. And, for me back then, it's only something we saw on TV, and barbecue did not really exist really. And it was almost like an anomaly. We weren't sure what it is. It looked amazing, but never able to try it. So that Sunday, my wife and I went over to his fair in Park Slope. We spent a few $100s there just eating brisket, just watching the lines, smelling the wood fire burning. And, something inside of me sort of changed, not as much as that I wanted to open up, obviously, a restaurant at the time. I just, I felt like, it was something so enjoyable just sitting at the fire watching a brisket that I really wanted to do it from home for fun. So I tried doing it. I tried smoking a brisket with no fat on my gas grill, and it was the most disgusting thing I ever had. Mm-hmm. And over time, I just kept on, started, learning about briskets. And Aaron Franklin, who is, considered, he has the busiest barbecue restaurant in Austin, Texas. People line up 6 hours before he opens up for his brisket. And he had a YouTube video back then, that along with speaking to other people, I was so, fascinated with this cuisine that I just spoke to everybody. I drove Ari White nuts for a while when I was, followed him everywhere. I bought a smoker in my parents' little backyard on their porch. I started smoking a brisket. My first night of smoking a brisket actually was in the winter in Brooklyn, 2, 3 in the morning. The briskets are going on, like waking up every 20 minutes to feed the fire. And suddenly I hear fire trucks going on the block. And I look outside my window and I see that they're just looking, and they can't find anything. I'm pretty much in my underwear. I call them into the back porch, guys, I think this is what you're looking for. And the guy speaks into the radio, check 1, 2, guys smoking a brisket, we're good. It was so uncommon, for somebody to be smoking a brisket in Borough Park and on a small porch backyard. Mm-hmm. So over time, I started smoking at my house. I created a Facebook page, which was called Izzy's Barbecue Addiction at the time, only to offset the cost of what, briskets were costing me every weekend. And then at a certain point, I realized that, my job really wasn't for me, and I sort of wanted to jump into the food world without really having any knowledge whatsoever of the restaurant industry. It took us a long time to open up a 600 square foot store, which coming up now in in 3 days, it's our 4-year anniversary, and it's also my birthday as well.
Mazel tov on that.
Birthday as well. And it's crazy. It feels like we opened up a year ago, honestly. It doesn't feel that long. It feels that long, but at the same time, it does not feel that long. So it's pretty interesting, and it's been a crazy ride. We just won Rib King 2019, where we competed against another 20 other smokehouses.
I saw that as well. Congratulations.
Yeah, we won Brisket King 2017. We came runner-up 2016. But Baruch Hashem, we're blessed. We're very fortunate to be where I am, and thank God.
So you're known pretty much as the king of kosher barbecue. Everyone knows about you. People come from all over to try your food. How did you get that knowledge properly to just go from a guy smoking briskets to the guy who everyone tries to emulate in their smoking life?
I wouldn't say king is the correct term, but I could tell you about anything is that the amount of time that I devoted to that specific craft, plus speaking to people was, I would say, is the equivalent of the amount that people, go to university or go to school or to learn a profession. And honestly, it's like I live and breathe this every day. And I think one of the biggest, attributes of where I am today and where Izzy is today is that there is no content. I don't ever at any point feel like, I'm the best, I'm good, I could relax. No, we want to be the best. We want to make the best barbecue. We want to make the best brisket. And, we're trying to find every advantage we can. And every day, how can we make it a little bit better? There is no content. I feel like the second you feel like you reach the top of the mountain is when you go right back down. So I think that's our motto, that, stay humble, try hard. I think that's been the key to success for us.
Nice. And at some point, did you go out to Texas to learn from some of the people over there?
I really, you know how people say that they go to, to Uman for Rosh Hashanah. So for
Yeah.
me, I go to Austin. I go to Austin for my Uman. Really is that, it's even though I can't really eat the food, obviously, but just going down there, seeing, the people waiting online, seeing the effort that people are putting into their food, it's something amazing to watch. And, what's different in the barbecue community versus other food industries or other industries in general is that most people in all industries, when it comes to competitors, everyone is very, hush hush. Everyone has to worry about themselves, and everything is pretty secretive. However, with the barbecue industry, it's really not the same. You realize that all the restaurateurs, like all the guys, all the top guys in the world, they're all friends. They all speak to each other. They all do events together. And the reason why is because think about it. If you're going to go ahead and go smoke a brisket for 18 hours and actually watch it, and you have maybe a 10-minute window, as to where, assuming you did everything right, you trimmed it right, you bought the right meat, you watch your fires right, and you have a 10-minute window to where the meat's ready, you're pretty crazy and you're insane. So to find somebody who shares that same passion with you, the last thing you want to do is not talk to him. You want to talk to him. You want to talk to him about it. How was your experience? How did it go? No one knows what we're doing really. So that's really where the barbecue community differs from other industries, really.
Nice. And let me ask you this. A friend of mine told me, I don't know if this is true, but this is the rumor, that when you went to Texas, you bought like a new barbecue, you brought your own kosher meat and spices and seasonings and everything. You had one of the famous pit masters make you his food in a kosher way. Is that true?
Yeah. So, I consider myself very, very lucky. What happened was in 2017 when we had won Brisket King New York, which is the brisket competition here in New York, we won that year. And one of the judges, like I mentioned before, was Aaron Franklin, one of the guest judges. And he was the guy who I just mentioned that in Austin, Texas, he has a line of 4 to 6 hours. He's only open for lunch, and people line up 6 hours. And literally, so he actually invited him and someone else. The other guy's name is Daniel Vaughn. On Instagram, he calls himself the barbecue snob.
Okay.
Where he sort of like goes to barbecue place and he gives reviews. He's the only paid barbecue critic in the world, really. So him and I have a relationship, and he sort of tried to, tell Aaron Franklin, listen, Izzy is trying to emulate what, Central Texas barbecue is what sort of we're doing, because within barbecue itself is regions. You have within Texas, you have a whole bunch of regions, and you have, Kansas City, which is more like burnt ends, and you have the Carolinas, which is ribs, and you have, other regions have their own things they do. So my specific cuisine really sort of is emulating Central Texas barbecue, which is pretty much where brisket is king, the beef, which we're Jewish, we can relate to that. And it's simple, salt and black pepper, and let the fire do the talking. So Aaron Franklin is sort of the mumch on that, and he's renowned around the world. And so he's sort of invited us to come down to Austin, Texas, because he's actually releasing a backyard smoker line. So he had a brand new smokers. We came down with the meat to Austin, Texas. I went down with Ari White from the Wandering Q.
Right.
We went there for two days, and it was just an amazing experience. It wasn't only that the food was amazing, just the environment and the ambiance that you're in over there. Sitting in the picnic tables, burning this gorgeous post oak wood. It was just an amazing experience, and the guy was an amazing, gracious host.
Let me ask you a weird question. When he cooked the food, I'm assuming he tried it as well. So in his opinion, how did it compare to the kosher food, the kosher meat, to the meat that he usually cooks?
Very, very similar. Obviously, like we adjusted the rub accordingly based on, obviously we know that kosher meat is a little saltier.
Right.
So we, sort of played around with that. But as far as the quality, like everything, like a big part of, why people, love Izzy's and they come here is that almost all our briskets are prime. It's a very high quality product, That's like people tell you, like, before anything, it's about the quality of the meat that you start with. You start with a bad piece of meat. You could dress it ahi and aher, but at the end of the day, you're devoting, 24 hours to cook a piece of meat. You want to make sure you start off with a great product. So it was a very similar product to what he got. I can't tell you if it's as good as what he got. I don't think even if he would say if it's worse, he's just a really nice kind of mensch that I wouldn't really know. But it seems like it's a very similar product, in my opinion.
Okay. So then you started the business. Can you tell me a little bit about the process, what it was like, and the challenges you faced in the beginning?
Okay. As far as us, when it came to a brick and mortar, no one actually had a brick and mortar smokehouse. Meaning there was brick and mortar smokehouses, but we were the only ones who were burning wood-fired grills. Meaning there are other places that are using smokers that use gas. And the reason why people use those smokers is because you could sort of, set it before you go home, and you come back in the morning and you check it. For us, we were the first person that sort of one of the first ones that really had somebody, watching the fires all night. What woods we use. There was so much details into the science of cooking a brisket more than just a single piece of meat. So sort of, figuring out, we opened up a restaurant that is way too small. I'm not sure if you've been to our place, but a really small restaurant.
Times. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a really small place. Like I thought we were going to open up a small community place. Never thought that most of my clientele would be from out of the community. So just dealing with aspects like how much meat do we cook, also introducing a cuisine that, but pretty much when you come to a restaurant, all you're paying for is the quality of the meat. There's no frills. There's no, you're paying for a high quality piece of meat, and you're getting it on a tray with a plastic fork and knife. Right. And that's what barbecue is. It's simple food for the people. Even though if you think about it, that people would go to a steakhouse and spend insane amount of money, but for some reason, this isn't even in the non-kosher world, is that when it comes to a smokehouse, people do not expect to pay that pricing. However, if you think about it, a steak, how long does a steak take to grill? 10, 12 minutes, half hour? A piece of brisket could take up to 24 hours just cooking wise. So shouldn't that be something that should be the most expensive product?
For sure.
So people think that it's a cheaper product, but the reality is that it's one of the most highest quality product that you had sort of an artist watching it all night, making sure that you have a great product.
So you literally have someone standing there all night?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And there's so many factors, and it's not only that. Like obviously, if I was doing one brisket, I could watch one brisket, with the hawk. But we have some briskets that are drier. Some animals are just leaner. So playing around with that, making sure that every customer's experience is good. However, when you have so many people coming into a small place, stuff go wrong. So dealing with all that, dealing with meat vendors as well, not being able to get meat at times. And just the on top of running a restaurant, which is one of the hardest businesses as well, it's really hard. It's very rewarding as well, but it really faces its own challenges on its own. We have, let's say, if the smoker breaks down one night, just dealing with wood and fire, something breaks. That's it. There is no food the next day. There is no way about it.
Has that ever happened?
Of course. Yeah. There are a few instances where we have to close the next day, or at least for lunch, because we had a smoker malfunction, or our meat purveyors, deliveries were short, because we before Yontif, a lot of times all the supermarkets are buying all the cuts, so us restaurateurs have a harder time to get meat, and over time, being that one of the most common items in barbecue is pork ribs, so we don't really have that. Similar items, so trying to play around with coming up with other items, whether it's a beef rib or a lamb rib or the short ribs or other specials to try to come up with to sort of substitute that item. It's just there's constant challenges and stuff to deal with, and like I said, for example, let's say I start off with a 20-pound brisket. When I'm done cooking that brisket, I'm left with maybe 9 pounds. So it's just an expensive product you're dealing with. So sort of introducing that food to the market without giving you, a fancy fork or knife or a plate was its own challenge, introducing that to the market. Like people are saying, I don't understand, if I'm paying $60 for a rib, then why am I not getting a nice plate, a nice metal fork and a knife? Right. No, you're paying solely for the quality of the craft. That's all you're paying for. So listen, people have responded well to it. I'm going to say, but like I said, you still have its challenges, or sometimes you see people coming in not sure what Izzy's is. They hear about it. They come in with their wives in their high heels and they're expecting some fancy place. And the reality is, it's just a place where people come pig out and eat and enjoy.
Right. Just backtracking for 1 second. You said a 20-pound brisket will end up in 9 pounds. That's because you have to trim it and because it shrinks while it's cooking?
Yeah. So what happens is that we trim it. Like I said, if you're cooking a brisket at home, you would trim the fats off. But by us, that being that we want to make sure that every piece is a perfect piece when we slice. So any of the ends, any of the things that may go dry or may not, be, edible for our standards we'll usually trim off as well. And on top of that, when you smoke it for a long time, there's a ton of water weight water that starts to release from the meat. So when you're cooking for 18-hour cook, you're talking about a ton of water and liquid that's leaving the brisket. So you're left with probably a little under half when you're cooking. So people ask me why you price so expensive. I'm like, listen, if you come here one day and you see what the food cost is and how much work goes into it, you tell me how much you would charge. The funny thing is, like, I was actually at a non-kosher place yesterday. I took I had a meeting there with a few other friends who are non-Jewish, to speak about barbecue and smoked meat, and I was just looking at the pricing over there, and they were literally a few dollars less than we are, and they're non-kosher, and I know that their food cost is less than half of ours. So I guess it's sort of, at the same time, we can only charge X amount, obviously, for a brisket or whatever it is. So there's so many challenges and everyday stuff that we're faced with that we have to overcome. But at the end of the day, it's still very rewarding, and we're happy to do it.
Awesome. Okay. So the next question would be, I've actually been at your restaurant 3 times. Every time was a home run. I loved your empanadas. The ribs are awesome.
Thank you.
Haven't had any of the sandwiches yet. We like the sweet potato with the pecans. How do you come up with all these recipes? Like, not for the meat, let's say for the side things.
So a whole bunch of the stuff as well. Like when I was our menu is still very, very small, obviously. But when I was sort of creating the menu, we're talking about brisket, ribs, a few items. I said, what stuff would I like to eat with that on the side? And pretty much all the stuff that's on the menu is sort of these barbecue sides. The empanadas actually were my mom's idea. I was actually very hesitant to add it on, but I'm glad we did actually because it's a big seller.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to come up with stuff that sides that really pair well with the meat, and that's what we do.
Well, keep up your work.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next question is, you recently opened a second restaurant, is that correct?
We opened up the next one, a taqueria.
So what's the transition like from going to like Central Texas to Mexican food? And how do they mix?
It's actually very, very similar if you think about it. So we're sort of the next door, sort of a Tex-Mex. It's a separate restaurant, but it's really an addition to our menu, of our main store. So it's sort of Tex-Mex, and what that really is that in Texas, sort of they call them the Tejanos in Texas, where the Mexicans would come over to Texas, and what they would do is that they would cook back then, which is known as barbacoa, where they would cook sort of the head of the cow underground, and they would put it in the pit, make a fire under there, close it up, after work come back, and they would actually come back from work, and they would actually eat it with fresh handmade tortillas, and that's what they would do after work. It was like sort of poor man's food. It was a treat almost. So that's sort of what we're doing as well. We're sort of we're taking barbecue to the next level. So we have an amazing smokehouse. So now we're sort of trying to evolve our menu, and that we're taking these delicious smoked meats, whether it's lamb or brisket or tongue or other items, and we're sort of pairing it with fresh tortillas, fresh salsas as well. And in addition, we have some other Central American items as well. And we're trying to evolve the kosher palate, trying to show that the Jewish people that that we can make really good food. And there is other cuisines that we can try even though they're not kosher, and that's really what we're trying to do is make people understand this region of food. And I would say the difference in that is that it's not really as heavy as the smoked meat that we have next door. So this one, it pairs really, really, really well. And if you want to eat sort of like a snack and you don't want to go so heavy, the taqueria definitely fits that bill. On top of that, we have other items like rice bowls mixed with smoked brisket or smoked lamb or carnitas, So it's a really cool menu.
I see. So basically what it is like the meat from the smokehouse in a Mexican style. With
full American style, yeah, and we added on some other non-smoked items as well, but yeah, that's really what it is.
I love the fact that you're able to take like your existing business and start a new one based around the existing one, yet with a new flavor. It's really cool.
Yeah, but there's no question. Everything has its the fact that pretty much everything we're doing is introducing new food to the Jewish community, really. So with every restaurant that was sort of opening, the restaurant open, we sort of have to, educate as well. Like for example, let's say when you go, like when someone non-Jewish goes to a restaurant, how often is that person going to ask, what's this or what's that? They're going to a restaurant, they know what kind of restaurant they're going to. By us, we have questions like they come into the restaurant, they're like, what's this? What's pico de gallo? What's the salsa? What's a tortilla? So we're sort of educating from the beginning, really, which is cool, but also has its issues as well.
Okay. So the next question is that you're running 2 restaurants. Restaurant is a very stressful business, as you mentioned. Can you tell me a little bit about the challenges and how you manage, to keep customers happy, staff happy, and all that?
It's very, very hard. I'm still trying to figure that out every day. I guess the one thing I would say is that don't try taking shortcuts in terms of the food. That's one thing that when it comes to food quality, we for sure do not skim. I also believe in this is my opinion. It does not mean it's right. Like I'm not meaning that if I were to have one specific restaurant, I would sort of try to make as much money in it as possible. But being that I want to sort of create a hospitality group, I'm not sure if you know, but we're opening up a fried chicken place in Crown Heights as well, a fried chicken beer garden Southern Comfort place.
Oh, really?
So
when's that happening?
Yeah, that's happening within a month. We're hoping to open up. It's focusing on fried chicken, biscuits, donuts, waffles, food that makes people happy. So like our goal here is to sort of open up a hospitality group and create good working environment for people. So I definitely believe in empowering the workers. And obviously, we overpay our workers. We don't overpay, but we pay them accordingly because I'm looking more in terms of investment from them. I'm not looking for people who have to replace, worry about they're not going to show up to work. It happens anyway, obviously, but you feel like if people are happy in the workplace, they're probably going to stay more likely than leave. So that's really the goal for us. Keep people happy. Keep them motivated. Focus on quality. If something's wrong with the customer, like you have to someone was saying that if you see a customer waiting a long time, it just happens sometimes. Just be honest and listen. It took us 18 hours to cook this meat. This is what we're able to do. We can only serve you at a certain point. I don't want to we had so many times decisions is when I could have offered an inferior product to a customer while he was waiting for a long time. But then I think to myself, no. People are coming. I heard this is what Aaron Franklin said this, and I've been saying this before as well, that people are waiting on your line only to say you have subpar food. Because people are coming to your place, they don't care what happened to you the day before. They know that they drove from Lakewood an hour and a half. They want to make sure that your food is on par. They don't want to hear excuses. Right. So in my mind, I'd rather keep them waiting another 10, 15, 20 minutes, which is like a long time, would give them a product that they're going to enjoy versus give them an inferior product and sort of try to rush the cook. Or there's so many times where I saw that briskets were not up to par. They weren't good enough to serve, and people were begging me, just give us the brisket. I said, listen, I'd rather not sell you and not make the money than give you an inferior product and your expectations are not going to, what's what you expected. So I just feel like maintaining high quality, being honest with people. I feel like that's, making sure your employees are happy are the key to success, especially if you want to have a few restaurants. And by the way, and that does not mean that you're gonna succeed. That just means you just have a higher risk. Like I said, food industry is the hardest thing to succeed in. You're working for each dollar you make. There's so many sales that are involved and interacted in, and there's food costs and there's food waste, and it's a grind every day.
Wow, that's very impressive what you do with making sure you don't send out anything that's not up to par, and I hope it's working for you.
And it has happened in the past because there's times that I'm not there and it happens, but it's I try to instill to my employees that we don't do that.
Right. Okay, now you mentioned that you're going to be opening a third restaurant, which sounds really awesome. Like the fried chicken I think it's a very good idea. Is that going to be near the other 2 Izzy's restaurants?
I'm not sure with Crown Heights, but it's on Kingston Avenue. It's right next to Basil. Kingston, between Lincoln and St. John. So it's more of a agricultural area. We're going to have a beer garden in the backyard probably a half year after we open. We're waiting for our licenses. But the idea is that it's, Southern comfort food, really.
Right. Do you ever worry that you're like spreading yourself too thin because you keep expanding? Like that's a lot to, a lot on your plate.
I do, but at the end of the day, I don't feel stressed or overwhelmed. I want to create good food in the kosher industry. I'm sort of trying to live out my dream.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I feel like if you build a good foundation, within, your employee ranks and good hobbies, it's for sure easier than recreating a mom and pop shop, from each store to store.
That's awesome. And like, what's the limit for you? Do you see any number of restaurants who say, no, that's too much, I can't do that anymore? Like, are you going to keep growing and doing this?
I don't know. Well, honestly, for me, like, obviously, you want to make a living and make parnassa, but for me, the goal is that, like, I'm okay. Listen, I'm still young now. This is my years of, growing. I want to sort of, make good food. I definitely want to have a bigger smokehouse. But after that, I don't know. It could be I'll be content with that. I don't have to have, I don't envision I need to have 30, 40 restaurants. It's not where I am. I just want to focus on making good food. Having, places, people can eat. And if it stops after this one, that's fine. If it stops after another one, that's also fine.
Can you see yourself branching out of Crown Heights or franchising or like growing it nationally?
Franchise nationally, not anytime soon, because like I said, we're focused on a really high quality product. That's where got us to where we are.
Yeah, it would be very difficult to maintain that with a franchise.
Yeah.
But like, let's say moving to other parts of Brooklyn or New Jersey.
Maybe eventually, but I think for us the next goal is to get the taqueria going and to get the fried chicken going. And then after that, these are all like full-time jobs as well, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Right. Okay. Now I know people come from all over to try your food. I'm sure you have a lot of great stories to tell. Can you share with us one crazy story, something that happened with a customer or something like that?
There's so many. I'm just trying to what's considered a crazy enough story.
A good story.
We had people. There's a few of them like this. These two guys. I see them coming with their suitcases. With the carry-on, and they're coming straight into my restaurant. And ask them, how come you're here for business? No, we came here to eat, and we're flying back to LA after tonight to eat. We had stories like that, like literally people, coming literally from everywhere to come eat, or just the sheer amount of food that like our menu is small. So we have these two people who spend literally like $500 on food, which at Izzy's is it's a ton of food.
Right.
And we thought there's no way they're going to finish, and then they come in like half hour later and they order more food as well. I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys do not stop. It's insane. But we have just people, coming from Canada, going right back. You have a very devoted following, which is insane.
Oh, well, I'm very happy for you that you have that. My next question would be, if someone wants to start a business or take on really any big project in life, something that takes a lot of work, what would be your advice to them?
Aim 1,000 times, only shoot once. Make sure you do your homework over and over and over and over and over. And once you do that homework and you feel like the concept or the idea is sort of sound, know that you are going to have haters and naysayers. Just do it if you're confident about it. But I would say think and do research before. But you're really the only person who could say no to anything you want to do. Really, everything else is just an excuse. People are going to tell you it's an excuse. Just really focus on what your niche is and just do it. And do not be scared to ask people. That's what I would tell people. And besides from not being scared to ask people, what I learned the most is what not to do from people. I sort of saw what people did and this is not really for me. I'm gonna do something else.
Right.
So I would say ask. You'd be surprised how much information I'm willing to share, and then make this decision from there whether that works for you or not.
Okay. Now, speaking of naysayers, did you have anybody who tried to talk you out of doing this, or people saying like, "Who's this Jewish kid who thinks going to start a barbecue joint?"
Everyone.
Wow.
Everyone. And you know what? And I don't blame them either. I wasn't in the food industry before. I had no idea what I was doing. I was going into an industry that no one really knew, if it could work in kosher or not. So I don't blame them either. But at the same time, I was sort of headstrong in this.
Ren, it must be awesome to be able to look back and show everyone that you proved them wrong.
With their kids.
I don't care about that really. It's more about, we have enough, challenges every day that just overcoming them is good enough for me.
I see. Okay, now if it's okay, can I ask you 2 more questions?
Sure.
Okay, this one is for people who try to smoke stuff at home or people maybe who don't even have smokers. What tips can you give people who want to cook good meat in their kitchen?
I would recommend that everybody should have a charcoal grill in their backyard. It's a pretty basic tool that, anybody who has a backyard could use. And what I would say is, and the reason I'm saying that because, you can't match, what, charcoal and wood gives you over gas stove. You have so much more flavor within that. And the second thing I would say is do not start with a piece of brisket, even though it seems to be macho and cool. It could be very intimidating and very time consuming and may turn you off from smoking completely. So I would say start off with a piece of chicken or, a small rack of ribs. Those items are more easy to get into and, going to be really enjoyable once you make it.
I see. Okay, and for the last question, if you could sit down with anybody in the world, alive or dead, anyone throughout history, and you could have a beer with them, who would you choose and why?
I don't know if I can answer this question now. I'm not sure. There's so many. I wasn't prepared for this question. I'm not sure. There's so many people.
Right,
I'm not sure. I have no idea.
Anything that comes to mind? Anybody? You could give a few people or...
I don't know.
Okay, well, you know what? I like the fact that you just want to think about it because most people will just spit something out just to give an answer. But I like the fact that you're like, it really says something about sort of the same way you run your business. Everything that comes out has to be perfect.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come on the show. We really appreciate it. And good luck with all of your endeavors. Once again, you make awesome food. I hope to come into New York next week and hopefully stop by your place.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that.
That was Izzy Eidelman, the owner of Izzy's Barbecue Smokehouse. If you want to check out his restaurant, it's located at 397 Troy Avenue in Brooklyn, New York, 11213 USA. I really think you should go there. Food's awesome. As a matter of fact, I am flying to New York tonight, and I hope to be able to visit the restaurant and get some of his awesome food in my stomach ASAP. It's really that good. Worth a trip from anywhere. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Before we go, I just wanted to remind you again that if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. The link is in the description. You can also follow us on all of our channels, both accounts, my personal account at Chusidel, that's CHUSIDEL, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, at You Are Not a Goat on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And please leave a review to the podcast. Once again, if I do end up reading your review online, on the show, on air, I will send you a gift card. So there's a little incentive for you to leave us a review. And that's all for this week. Thank God we did get an episode out this week. I promised it last week, and now it's here. I hope to be able to put out another episode next week and the week after and the week after. I am working on my consistency, and I'm getting better at it, so thank God for that. And I really look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good one, and peace out.
You are not a goat. The podcast for you.